What's up guys, and welcome to another episode of The Block is Hot. Today is Saturday, which means we're going to go over the CNFT market updates of the week. Now, I want to stress here guys that everything I'm saying in this video is for entertainment purposes. This is just my opinion and kind of guesses of where things are going, so don't take it too seriously. But without further ado, let's get into it. To start off guys, let's look at the overall CNFT market for the week. And as anticipated, we did just keep dropping as far as ADA volume goes. This isn't a big deal. It just means that we have to change our strategy. Things come in waves and cycles of the market changes. And if you follow me on Twitter, I actually sent out a tweet, I believe yesterday, saying, hey guys, we can't be mad when we try to predict this market because we really can't predict it. We have no idea what's going on. But what we can do is we can adapt with the market and change up our strategies to benefit from the current market as much as possible. I've said it in a couple previous videos, but the main thing that we want to do here, guys, is not mint a bunch of projects, right? Like, I still see people minting a bunch of these different projects, and you're honestly going to take an L 9 out of 10 times. Now is not the time to mint. Minting is when volume is high and hype is high and FOMO is high. Right now is the time we take a step back and we dollar cost average into some of these really great blue chip CNFTs that have been devalued in this little bit of a cycle. I can't predict the next week. I can't predict the next month, but I'll tell you what, I have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen in the next several years, and that's CNFTs absolutely exploding. So now is the golden opportunity to get into these blue chips that people complain about not being able to afford. We could potentially see us going down even lower in volume over the next several weeks, maybe even the next several months. This is the time, guys, to really take advantage and not be scared and to do the opposite of what everyone else is doing, and that's buying and slowly buying more when prices continue to dip. Now that that's out of the way, guys, let's go over the top 10. At number 1 for the week, we have the Ape Society with 809,000 ADA worth of volume. Now, guys, the Ape Society has been going stupid. It's been going bananas this past week. I'm sorry to use the puns there. It has been going stupid though. And what really kills me is that last week when it was around 380 to 400, I was like, man, I really like this project. Man, I think this is undervalued. Man, I think this is a good price. Man, I think this is better than Chilled Kongs. And you know what I did, guys? I didn't buy a single freaking one like an idiot. I don't know why I couldn't bring myself to buying it, but I wish I did because these have been going on a crazy run all the way to 700 ADA. Now, I would be very hands-off right now when it comes to now buying into this project. We don't want to chase stuff. We just literally had almost a double up in the past week, so we have to be careful. I know they are doing a ton of stuff, and I know I'm bullish on them in the long term, but it's a little bit too hot right now, especially since Justin and DZ, which have a YouTube channel with 15,000 subscribers, they just shouted this project out. So you know that a lot of people are getting in it to quick flip and basically are just chasing gains from what those guys said. The amount of influence that Justin and DZ have in this space is honestly pretty insane. They have a ton of people following them that literally all they do is follow and copy their plays. So we have to be careful whenever they shout out a project because a lot of times the growth in that project is not long-term and sustainable. A lot of times the people getting into those projects after they announce it are just trying to quick flip it and hope that they can make some money on the run up. I personally am going to stay away from this project for now and look for a pullback. I have no idea where we're going to go, guys. Like, this is one of those things, there's no way predicting this. Like, we could drop all the way back down to 500 tomorrow, or we could go on a crazy run all the way to 1,000. Personally, the risk is too high for me to be in. If you're in right now and you have a decent amount of these apes, potentially sell 1 or 2 just to take some profits, because this was the peak floor that we had when these first came out. Now, I think in the long term, these will do well, and they have their whole metaverse, and they have the token and all of that stuff. But as far as a short-term thing, man, this has just been going too crazy for me. Coming in at number 2 on the list, we have Spacebudz with 600,000 ADA worth of volume. Now, you guys know my opinion on Spacebudz if you watch this channel, if you've seen some of these market updates. I personally don't think trying to time Spacebudz is a good move. If you're trying to invest in Spacebudz, just hold it long term. As far as where I see this going though, I do see us going lower to about that 5,000 ADA range. One of the things that I've been noticing recently is that a lot of blue chips have been getting devalued devalued a ton just because people don't want a crap ton of their money into one NFT. Like for example, these Spacebudz had dropped all the way down to 5,888. Then we had Dead Pixels for the first time drop below 2,000 and God knows how long. We had Clay Nations that were like 14, 1,500. They dropped all the way down to about 1,100, 1,200. So a lot of people are selling these really expensive blue chips because they don't want to take the risk on having so much money in one place. I think that if you can get these Spacebudz for 5,000 ADA, that would definitely be a really good buy-in price. And I personally don't see us going below that 5,000 ADA mark. I think that's too significant of a number, and you would have people like me coming in just buying them up at that price. So if you do see us getting near there and you're looking for a long-term hold and you're not looking for crazy swings, then I think that would be a pretty good scoop up. Coming in at number 3 on the list, we have Pavia with 511,000 ADA worth of volume. Now you guys know I love Pavia. I buy a ton of Pavia. I'm holding Pavia. I think Pavia is going to do very well in the long term. And yes, I do think getting in at 340 ADA is a good price in the long term. This had gone all the way down to 300 ADA just this past week, and it kind of blew my mind that it got that low. It's just even more evidence that a lot of these blue chips are being sold off right now, which is kind of crazy because I think people should be doing the opposite. Overall, I am very bullish on this project long term, and we could drop back down to that 300 number again, and if things get very bearish, we could go even lower, but I keep hitting this every so often. Like every couple of days, I'll just hit another one, and I'll hit another one, and I'll hit another one. I made a video recently about projects that I think are most undervalued, and this project actually made the list, especially since a lot of their utility is going to start coming out over this next year, and especially since they did drop those remaining pieces of land somewhat recently. The next project on our list today, guys, is Boss Planet Real Estate with 469,000 ADA worth of volume. Right now, we're looking at about 315 ADA to buy one of these pieces of land, and if you see here, guys, there is a tremendous amount of land that is being sold and being put up for sale at this price range. I personally think that we're going to go down to about 300 ADA, and then when that happens, we might have a slight bounce up, but I personally think that we could see these continue to drop to that 250 ADA range. Once this gets down to 300, if that does happen, then I'll probably buy one or two, and then as it goes lower, if it does go lower, then I'll continue buying some of this land. That is the best strategy for me at the moment, is really dollar cost averaging into these projects. We don't know how low we're going to go, but we also don't want to miss the boat. So this is the perfect opportunity to maybe just buy one or two at a time and then wait a little bit and see what happens rather than just going balls to the wall off the rip. Boss Cats and their parts are coming in at number 5 and 6 with about the same amount of ADA worth of volume in each of them. The cats right now are looking about 1890, and they've pretty much stayed at this level for the past week. This is like a really ugly area. I don't like investing in stuff when it's at this area. I'd much rather see if we can break above 2,000 or if we break to the downside and go closer to about 1,600 to 1,800, which is where we floored last time. And kind of the same situation with the parts. Not many people have been buying or selling these parts, and we're at about 3,800 ADA for the floor on this. I personally don't think this is a good buy-in price. I personally think that it'll probably go lower to that 3,000 ADA level. We also have those Vox cats that are going to be coming out soon, so we could potentially anticipate that both of these projects are going to drop when those come out, and people don't have a use for these parts as much for the whitelisting for those Vox cats. I think those Vox cats are actually going to do pretty well, and I think they could potentially devalue the parts and the other cats just because they're going to be cooler, they're going to be the hot new thing, and they're going to have a lot more utility. And unless, the Boss Planet and the Boss Cat Rocket Club team can come up with another crazy hype thing to keep people holding these parts, we could see a short-term sell-off. Now, I had made a mistake in my last video, and I said that the Boss DAO was part of this Boss Rocket Cat ecosystem. That is not true. It's simply a couple investors that are trying to make that DAO and then buy Boss Cat stuff with it. Now, I'm personally not confident on that DAO actually being able to deliver. They don't have a website yet, and they're launching in a couple days, and I think them asking for 1.5 million ADA is ridiculous, especially in the market right now, especially when they haven't really showcased anything going on in their project. So I wouldn't really count on those guys to really be able to pump these parts up and these cats up. I'm not trying to create FUD and say they're a rug pull or anything like that. I just don't think they're going to get as many sales as they think they will, and I don't know how much of that money is really going to transition into these cats and into these parts like I was anticipating last week. Coming in at number 7, we have the Smooth Yeti Mountain Club with 232,000 100,000 ADA worth of volume this week. Now, I love this project. I'm a big believer in this project, and the fact that they're coming out with their snowmobiles or the parts for their snowmobiles later in this month, and the fact that you have to own these Yetis in order to participate in that, make me bullish on these Yetis in the long term. I've been bullish on them since they were 50 ADA, and I'm lucky to have actually bought 12. I thought I only had 10, but I bought 12, all under that 50 ADA range. Now, as far as the current price goes, we did shoot up all the way to 250 ADA because once again, Justin and DZ had shouted these out. These had gone on a crazy run from 50 ADA to 150 ADA once they had announced their parts. Then all of a sudden, Justin and DZ talked about these Smooth Yeti Mountain Club, and they also talked about that ADA Ape Society, and this got an even bigger push up from 150 to 250. Once again, guys, a lot of that push up is artificial from them just pumping these different projects. Getting in at this price is a little bit risky since it's had such a crazy run up this week. It literally went up over 4x this week, but if we do see a pullback, I expect that pullback to be around that 150 ADA range. There is a chance though that this floor gets bought and that we shoot up above 200, and that's the new support. I do believe that there's going to be a lot of buying pressure leading up to those parts though, and I think as a long-term investment, this is a great play. Just be a little hands off right now and see where we go though. If we do break below this 195 and we keep dropping, look for some good buy-in prices around that 150 to 160 range. Coming in at number 8, guys, we have DEADPXLZ with 180,000 ADA worth of volume. I've said in a lot of my other videos that I really like DEADPXLZ as a long-term investment, and the DEADPXLZ that I currently own, I have not sold, and I'm just holding for the long run. I really think that this project is going to do well, especially since the team is doxed and the developer is a very well-known developer, Adrian, and I think that game is going to be a really great passive income. As far as the short term though, we have dropped from about that 22 to 2,500 range all the way down to this 1969, and it's because it's suffering the same fate as Spacebudz. Like your one NFT that costs 2,000 ADA. When people are uncertain about the market and when Cardano is going down, they don't want all of their money or so much of their money into just one project, and that's why we saw a pretty big pullback on these guys. I would definitely keep an eye on this project, and if we're able to see that 1,800 level again, I think that's a pretty good long-term buy. And if we do go into a super bearish CNFT market, then I'll definitely be looking to scoop a lot of these up because I am bullish on them in the long term. One point that I want to bring out too is that this floor is actually really weak right now. We have 1969, and then all of a sudden it jumps up over 200 ADA, and then we jump up another 200 ADA, and then there's only one more sale until we're back up to 2,500 ADA. So even though this looks kind of bad as far as them dropping below 2,000, there really weren't that many that dropped below that level, and whenever they did drop below that level, they got scooped up relatively quickly. Number 9 on our list, we have Knfty World, Knfty Creatures with 175,000 ADA worth of volume. Knfty World is actually a project that released in this past week, and it was actually a project that I really liked. I think this art stands out. I think their team is doing a good job. I think the website looks great, and I like their roadmap. Unfortunately, they were releasing in such a bearish market that a lot of these Knfties ended up doing not that well. Like, we're not too far off from floor price right now. For a while, we were actually in that 45 to 50 ADA range, and I think that in the short term, there is a chance that we can go back down there, and if we do, that would be a really good scoop up for the long term. I bought one of these in the aftermarket for around that 50 ADA range, and I think that once volume picks up, that this could be a project that does well in the future. Taking the last spot on our list today is Teddy Troops at number 10 with 173,000 ADA worth of volume. This is also a newer project that has been blowing up over this past week. What was crazy is the mint price was 55 ADA, and we were actually under that 55 ADA price for the longest time, in my opinion. And now all of a sudden, a lot of people are buying into this, and they have gone all the way up to this 100 ADA range. Now, I really think the art on these look really cool. I think the style looks good. The team at Mystic Monks, when I did the interview with them, actually brought up this project, and I do think that this really does stand out with all of their different layers and colorations and just random, I mean, like, what is half of this stuff? Like, the ideas that they had when it came to these traits is honestly really special. As far as price goes with these guys, we are at a very key support and resistance level, which is 100. 100 is usually very hard to break, and it's in either direction, right? It's hard to get past 100, and it's hard to break below 100. So if you really do like this project and you want to hold it in the long term, then I think buying in right now isn't a bad idea. I think worst case scenario with these guys, unless we get super bearish, we see them drop down to like maybe 80 or 70, and then we might see a ton of buying pressure there and these might pop back up to 100. But I think if you're going to invest in this, now is not a horrible time, because I think the downside is a lot lower when compared to the potential upside if you do like this project. To quickly go over some other projects that I have my eyes on, one of the main ones is going to be these Cornucopias bubble jets. These have been just dropping and dropping and dropping, and it's because they're dropping another 8,900 vehicles, which are the new Javelins, on the 15th of this month. As far as a price target for these jets, I'm really looking to see if it goes down to about 110 ADA or potentially 120 ADA. I mean, there's even a world where these go for 100 ADA. I just don't think there's enough volume in the CNFT market right now to support a healthy floor for both of these 12,000 bubble jets as well as those 8,900 new Javelins. As far as my strategy goes with these guys, I did sell all 15 of my bubble jets like I told everyone I would. When I saw that they were going to be launching a lot of them, or I got that feeling, I started selling a bunch of my jets. I sold most of my rare jets between 250 and 300. I sold a lot of my commons for about 160 to 180, and then I sold a couple of my uncommons for about 180 to 200. Now, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking some of that money and I'm going to be looking for a buying opportunity for the long term with these bubble jets if we do see a dip like I'm expecting. If these do go anywhere from 100 to 110, then I'm going to be buying some more for the long term. I also sent ADA to a bunch of wallets in order to get as many Javelins as possible. I think in the short term, those Javelins, those commons, could actually go under mint and they could go for 80 ADA. And if that's the case, I'm going to be buying them up, those commons up at that 80 ADA range. I personally do think, though, that it's worth going hard on those Javelins because there's a 50% chance that you don't get a common. And I think anything that's not a common is going to be profitable off the rip and is going to make up for those commons. Other projects I'm looking at right now, I'm looking at Borg Club. I think those corrupted chips are going to be usable sometime this month, and I think these are going to get a really great push up, and I think these are undervalued right now. They're going for about 230. These Mocossis I just made a video on, they have breeding coming out on the 15th, and I think that we could see a little bit more of a pop-up with them towards the breeding. We could see a pullback, but I think from breeding these guys, you could make some money from that. And if you're able to make a decent amount of money from that, maybe these are going to go up. So I have a big eye on these. I just have 2 of them for now. I think these Cardano Croc Clubs are a pretty decent buy. I actually made a video yesterday about the most undervalued projects right now. And these Cardano Croc Clubs were like 215 when I made that video. And now a day later, they're 275. I still think this is a pretty good buying opportunity as far as the long term. And I think the radioactive Crocs are probably a good buying opportunity as the long term as well. This team is really doing a lot of stuff, and I think that these 2 projects really just got hammered after that whole release. Another project I'm looking at is Mutant Crocs. It's at this 200 ADA range, which is a pretty big number. I personally think that buying one of these long term in the hopes that that Epoch marketplace, starts cooking up with more volume because, it's such a great marketplace that these could potentially go up with it. Benjamin's group, I'm interested if this can continue to dip, if this can get to that 300 ADA range, I'll probably buy some up. These BlockOwls are going for about 188. They just had their season 2 release, and those are going for These season 2 actually just released today, and I was able to get one. Those are going for 120, and the mint was 106. So in my video yesterday, I also said that these BlockOwls would probably go down to about 110, 120, which is where we're at. So I'm potentially going to keep an eye on this. If these do go to around that 100 or maybe 110, maybe I'll be buying some up for the long term, and maybe I'll buy up some of those other BlockOwls, those season 1 BlockOwls, while they're under 200, because I do like the art, and I think this is going to be a bigger project in the future. I was actually able to get one of these raspberry ones. I wish I got a different one, but whatever. As far as Jarheads go, we're getting into that 200 ADA range. I think scooping these up, if you can get it for 200 and just holding it for the long term, is going to be a pretty good buy. I think a lot of people are sleeping on these, and I think as this ecosystem and CNFTs develop in the future, I could see this being like a pretty big art play. I mean, just imagine when Pavia releases this year and you can really hang these up in your you kind of museum, your kind of house thing. I think these could do really well, especially especially when you can actually showcase art. These chips I have a big eye on too. Once again, I think that these Borg chips are actually going to be able to be used this month, and when they announce that, I think these are going to have a decent bounce up. And then these Mutant Toads, similar situation to the Mutant Crocs, I think that this could potentially be a good situation if you're banking on that Epoch marketplace. As far as what I bought this week, I really didn't buy too much stuff, guys, just because I am a lot more hands-off in this market right now, and I'm really just paying attention to see where stuff goes. I did buy some of these Ada heads recently. I bought 6 of them. The whole reason that I bought these Ada heads is because I thought they looked really cool. I know their marketing isn't too great, so definitely don't jump into these, and they haven't been super active, but I just really like the art style, and I think that these could potentially take off in the future. This is more of a gamble though. I wouldn't follow this play necessarily. I also bought another corrupted chip. These are some mandrels that I already had. This is the BlockOwl that I got from that mint for 106 ADA. It's not really going for too much more. I sniped this guy for about like 140. I just thought he looked cool. I don't know how rare the Sunday ones are, but I didn't see any other Sundays around that 140, so I bought it. I bought 2 of these Cardano Crocs recently, just around that 215 to 220 ADA range, like I told people that I was going to. And I also bought a Borg because, once again, I think those Borgs are going to do well in the future once they announce stuff. I also bought one of those Mutant Crocs, and then these 2 Greyhounds I actually got as a donation when I had made the Greyhound Society interview. I didn't even know he was going to do this. I don't do paid promos or anything, and I tell them that beforehand, but he's like, dude, I really want to give you 2 Greyhounds just for going over it. And I was like, you know what? Sure, man. Like, you know, send me some cool ones. So he sent me some pretty cool ones. After talking to Martin, I really hope this project ends up doing well in the future. I just think the market right now is really tough. I also bought 4 of these Pavia stones, anywhere from 300 to 350 ADA. I felt like those were a pretty good buy. This one was airdropped to me, but I was able to buy 4 more, and they're already going for like 570 last time I checked. I think these are going to do really good in the future, but it's a lot more of a gamble. I think this is just going to be like the berry of the Pavia world, and when you can actually have a museum, if you can show these off, that's going to be a major flex. Some of these Yetis I moved over to this wallet from my main wallet just because I'm going to be looking to sell these guys right before the main parts drop. I'm going to be keeping 8 out of my 12 Yetis, and then the other 4 I'm going to sell right beforehand. And then this is just one of my Knfties that I bought just because I want to support the project and see where they go long term. That pretty much sums up this week's CNFT update video though, guys. I personally think that the best strategies right now are to just dollar cost average into some of these blue chips, as well as get into projects that you think have catalyst events coming in the future, whether negative or positive. Like prime example, guys, these Yetis, these Smooth Mountain Yetis, they have those parts coming up. What's going to happen right before the parts? A lot of people are going to be buying into the project that didn't know about it. They're going to want to be able to get those parts. So what am I going to do? I'm going to sell some of my Yetis before those parts. So that's like a situation where I can quick flip stuff. And then what's going to happen after people are able to get the parts? Well, people that had all these Yetis, in order to get to the parts, what are they going to do? They're going to sell. And then that's when I'm going to be buying again. And then that's when I wait for the next utility. And it's like one of those huge examples like that I brought up in my video yesterday with Cardano Croc Club. You had a huge run up all the way to like 450 to 500 ADA because people wanted to get into their season 2 with the radioactive Crocs. What's going to happen? Of course it's going to run up. What am I going to do? I'm going to sell on that run up. What happens right after the drop? They drop. Then what happens? I get in at 215, 220. Then what happens? Well, in the future, when they add more stuff, maybe it's a month down the road, maybe it's 2 months down the road, maybe I'm going to get a big push up from that, and I'm going to do the same exact thing. So it's always about like staying one step ahead. So if you're trying to do what I'm trying to do, you have to make sure that you're very active and you're paying attention to these different catalyst news. And then that way you can really find the best times to get in and out of projects. Overall though, guys, if you enjoyed the video or if you learned something, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and make sure to follow our Discord in the description below. But yeah, hope everyone here has an awesome day.